Hello, my name is Daniel Parrott, and in this video I would like to introduce version 2.4 of the Tycho software. Now, just to recap, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, Tycho is a program that specializes in the detection of asteroids, and it serves two key functions in this regard, the first of which is in the detection of new asteroids, or at least those that have yet to be discovered, and the other function of which is in performing follow-up observations of these asteroids. Now, Tycho is somewhat unique in that it uses a relatively new technique called synthetic tracking, which, briefly stated, allows us to achieve an improvement in signal-to-noise ratio by stacking several exposures together. Now, stacking itself is not a new concept. In fact, there are several other tools available which, when given the motion vector of the object in advance, are able to achieve a somewhat comparable result for that object. However, synthetic tracking does not require you to know the motion vector of the object in advance. In fact, synthetic tracking tries out literally hundreds and thousands of different possible combinations of stacking these exposures so that you can detect objects for which you do not know their motion vector. In fact, there are several other advantages to synthetic tracking, which I will go into in more detail in another video. But for now, I'd like to focus on what's new in version 2.4. So to that end, I have added support for the Gaia DR2 star catalog. I've also improved the centroiding algorithm so that the astrometry and photometry measurements have been improved. And I've also added the ability to automate the observations so that the workflow is improved. And finally, I've also added the ability to identify linkages. So if you've conducted more than one night of observations, the Tycho software can help assist you in determining which tracks link together. Now, regarding the measurements, I have used the FindOrb software to compute orbits of these 12 NEO-CP objects. These are near-Earth objects that have, for the most part, relatively fast motion. So what that means for us is that it's important not only to have accurate and precise measurement of the position of the object, but also on the timing of the observations as well. So as you can see here, lower is better when it comes to residuals, and the Tycho software is performing quite well overall. And in fact, for the raw numbers, these are the 12 objects in particular. The median residual of the Tycho software is actually slightly better. And this is great news. I've been working on this for several months now, so it's great to finally see this paid off. So next, again, we have the ability to automate these observations, and so you can simply click a button and the Tycho software will create these observations for you. Again, linkages, the software uses the orbital elements to identify these linkages, and as a side note here, the Minor Planet Center says to use the same track identifier on an object even if the objects span more than one night. So when a linkage is performed, the entire set of observations are assigned the same track identifier. So now it's time to go on to a demonstration. Okay, so for this demonstration, what I'd like to do is start off with the automated measuring tool. So I have a data set here, and I've already run the tracker on it. So it has come back with a number of tracks. Most of these will be true detections, at least up front, and as always, they're sorted by quality. So anyways, you go through the list, you start off with true detections, what are generally true detections, and then you start running into more and more false detections. So anyway, the point is we can go through this list and we can verify the track. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And so it's very simple. We have an image viewer right here, and it is we can animate that with the stacks. So I can zoom out a bit if I want to, and I can turn off the catalog stars. So we're animating three stacks at 400 milliseconds is the animation rate. And so you can clearly see that this is a moving object. We can uncheck that box and you can see it as it moves against the background. So anyway, what we can do is go ahead and add observations. This is a known object. It even has a permanent ID, so it's a numbered object. We can click OK, and it goes ahead and creates observations. So what I'm going to do is show that this makes it very quick. We can go through, add observations on the next object, same thing. So we just really make this quick. So And that's nice because in this particular field of view, we have a lot of objects to cover. So I can do that. And so far all of these have been known objects, except for now this object right here. It says it's unidentified. It's moving at the 0.39 arcseconds per minute. So it's probably just a main belt asteroid. But in any case, you can look at this animation and it certainly looks like it's a real object. So even though it's unidentified, you know, we have confidence that it is probably a true detection. So so what we'd like to do again is we'll go ahead and add observations, and it does not have a permanent ID or provisional ID, it just has a track identification number that's been pre-generated by the software. So we can do that. So we go ahead and pause the animation, and we might want to know, okay, you know, even though it doesn't match up with this the NPC orbital database that I have on my machine, maybe you know, if I plug these observations into the NP checker tool, maybe it might come up with something. So we'll go ahead and plug that in, see if it finds anything. So just take a moment here, and it looks like it is not a known object of any kind. So it's 2.7 and 0.2. That's reasonably far away from where any actual detection should be. So so there's good confidence that this is indeed potentially a new object, and so that being the case, we'd certainly like to keep it in our list of observations. Okay, so what I've done right now is I went ahead and finished creating observations. I now have a total of 42 objects, and that's a total here of 126 observations. Basically, I generally do 3 observations for each object. So I also then ran the quality analysis module, and it came back with these statistics. The max residual is 1.15, and that was just on this one observation in particular. Every other observation is under 1 arcsecond in residual, so I think that's pretty good. The one that had 1.15 as the max residual, this is track 328. So if I go to track 328, this is a known object, and what we can do is view existing observations. So it downloads the observations on this object, and as it turns out, so again, this is a data set I've worked with before in a previous version of Tycho. So again, these are dated December 8th of 2018. So what we can do is I'm going to simply erase these newly created observations, and I'm going to leave in place the old observations that were created with an older version of Tycho. So we'll view the residuals and find orb, and so this is where the 1.15 came into play. It was this observation that was made with an older version of Tycho. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put in the new measurements, and we'll delete the old measurements. So what we're going to be looking at are the residuals, the measurements that were generated with the new version of Tycho. And so as you can see, the new version of Tycho has a much better performance in terms of the quality of the measurement. So 0.56 is the worst residual of these 3 observations on this object. So that's pretty good. I mean, Catalina right here, they had a 0.73. In fact, they even had a 1.7. And it's not like this is a fast-moving object. They wouldn't have had you know, any kind of streaking. It's only moving at 0.66 arcseconds per minute there. So anyway, so quality analysis is a nice module. It lets you get a good feel for whether or not the measurements you're making are worth submitting to the MPC. And it's also, again, it also allows you to compare with measurements from other stations as well. So it's a nice tool. Now, so I've talked a lot about that. And so again, the other feature I was trying to get at was the ability to identify linkages. So Again, these are 42 objects, and these are all on one night of observation, and in fact is even in the same field of view. So it's with synthetic tracking we can pick up a lot of objects, and this field of view is not that large. It's it's almost 1 square degree. So what we do if we want to identify linkages is we load a previous set of observations that were generated. So I'm going to go to my December 7 observations and append them to this set. So we now have almost 200 observations in total. And so what we can do is run this module here, identify linkages, and it's first off what it's doing is it's running find orb to compute orbital elements. Okay, so once it has done so, in fact you can even do it separately. So you can just, if you wanted to just see the orbital elements of the objects, then you can get this window right here and it gives you the orbital elements. So that's all well and good, but what we're really wanting to do is just identify linkages. So I have, for example, a possible link here. So we can say this is track A and then track B. So we want to see if there is actually a link between these two tracks. So this is track 311. So if I go to that, let's see if I can do this. So that's Impala, and it thinks it would link up with a 126, which is also Impala. So there you go. That's a good thing. So we can actually confirm that, check for possible link, and voila, the residuals look pretty good. So in other words, if we were to combine December 7 observation with December 8 observation, we do get good residuals on this linkage. So what I can do is I can say, yep, I'm happy with that, and I can say link selected. So when I do that, when I do link selected, it has now performed that link. Let me see if I can find it here. The Impala, it is right here. So it's now under the same track ID. And again, remember the MPC says to use the same track identifier for the same object, even if it spans multiple nights. So that's what we've done. So we can continue this exercise. We can again do a check for possible link, and so December 7 observation, December 8, these are very good residuals. So I'm going to say, yep, that is a link. So I can say link selected, and we just work our way through this. Again, this is a good link, so I'm going to keep doing that. So far so good, and eventually this list, we can get it narrowed down quite a bit. And again, this is a very nice way to do it, because if you had to do this by hand, it would just be, when you have this many objects, it'd be kind of frustrating. So yeah, so far we're doing quite well. We're able to identify lots of linkages this way. And let's see here. This one might not be. It has a somewhat large error, and indeed, find orb tells us as much. So in this case, this is not a link. You wouldn't want to link these two objects together. So I'll skip that, and I'll go to this next one here. This is a good one. We'll see about this one. Okay, this is not a good link, so we'll ignore that one. This one is good. And we'll just keep going. Okay. All right, that one is good as well. And that one is good. So we managed to link a lot of these observations together across these 2 nights. And now what we're really after here, and the main motivation behind this, is for our objects that we think are possible new discoveries, the ones that do not have a permanent ID or provisional ID. So this one here, for example, we think this is a new object, So we can view that. Anyhow, again the residuals. If we do that, it says this is a good linkage, and so we might ask the NPC if they think that this matches up with any known object. So we can submit these observations and see if it comes back with anything, and it does not. So the nearest object is this numbered asteroid here, that's very far away from these observations. So in other words, this is a this would be an asteroid that's not been, at least it's not been classified as part of their database. So anyway, that's obviously worth something. Should be anyway. Likewise, we have this one here. It made a good link from December 7 and December 8, so that's a good one. We could do the same thing. See if it hits anything in the database here. So just give it a moment. And again, same thing, it does not. So this is 3.3, that's too far away. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all of these here, but as you can see, the identify linkages is quite nice. We were able to match up a lot of these new objects, these new potential discoveries across the multiple nights. And so that's the whole goal of this, is to help automate the process and make it a lot faster. So it only took me maybe an hour or so of effort to do this, and these are not terribly bright objects. These are hitting mag 20, so it's not too bad for these objects anyway. So anyway, I think that's about it for this video. It's just a demonstration of the new version 2.4. There's a lot of other features in here as well, but I thought I'd just go ahead and share those main two items there. So thanks for watching.